Working. But okay, cool. So now, welcome everybody. Give yourselves a round of applause. Yeah, for taking out time on a Thursday. Thank you so much, my lovely fans right there in the middle. My name is Daliso Ngoma. Currently, I'm just making VR thing. I think that's still my bio on LinkedIn. But pretty much just been in the space ever since 2017, 2018, with a whole lot of lovely people in the house. Rick and Gary, of course. Mick is also there at the back. As it stands, we're always trying to make it a thing by even bringing in things like the Apple Vision Pro. Yep. So hopefully a few of you so hopefully a few of you guys can actually experience it for a bit. But yeah, we can move on to the next slide. So any artists in the house, put your hands up. Whoa. Any coders in the house, put your hands up. Yeah, any students in the house, put your hands up. Oh, only one student? Ah, come on. Okay. Anybody who actually hopes to have a great Thursday night, put your hands up. Whoa. Okay. So we'll get the ball on the roll. And first, it'll just be welcome and intro about what weAReVR is all about, what the space is also all about, the guest speakers, the open sessions, and then we'll just be chilling at the end. But Dale? All right, cool. So welcome to weAReVR, Jozi. This is episode 2 for this year. And we want to be the XR capital of Africa, right there in Joburg. And for this month, it is Women in XR. As you can already see, I presume, Dale, you used some AI magic for this? Yes, he did. And of course, location here, Keys Out Mall. And of course, weAReVR. It's been 6 years. I think 4 years were shaved off because of COVID. But ever since 2018, we've... Did I just go back? Yeah, ever since 2018, we've pretty much just been trying to have an open community run event and community in the sense of like WhatsApp groups, even meeting up on the likes of WhatsApp VR chats and such. Quite a lot of the people have been in the space for probably even longer than 6 years. And we just want to share the wealth of knowledge, wanting to also make it quite sociable. Of course, you can really see where I actually did have here. Obviously, even with the custom VR headsets, the Quest 1, I think that's even like an Oculus Go there. So there's been a wealth of history in what we've actually been able to do. We used to be in the Tomorrow Gallery, which was downstairs. But of course, now we've moved on up. So again, what do we do? Which is in terms of weAReVR, if you didn't already notice the AR and the VR in weAReVR. Augmented reality, that would typically be simulating 3D objects in a real-time space, typically using your phone, maybe an iPad and the likes. Then I'll swing it all the way to the right, which will be virtual reality in a simulated 3D space, so enclosed in your own 3D world. And then in the middle, this is always just being debated, AR and VR being put together as mixed reality, so being able to interact with 3D objects and the likes, such as like a MetaQuest 3, because it also has a LiDAR once it's sensor, where it can actually manipulate 3D objects on real-world surfaces and such. And of course, there is the Apple Vision Pro, where you can also interact within such environments. And yeah, moving right along onto the main event, the speakers. So we've got Lebo, Amy, and Daluta. So without further ado, we can go on. Introducing Lebo, give her a round of applause. Cool. So Lebo, give us a bit of an intro about yourself. Yeah. Ah, okay. Let me see if we can actually organize. Yeah, Buzo. Cool.
Everybody okay if I sit?
Yeah, no problem.
I'm an old lady now. It's for the young.
Cool.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing on this Puza Thursday? A little bit of an intro. A higher chair. Problem solving. I love it. Okay, where was I? A little bit of an intro about me. So I am a producer, I guess. I have been producing for about 2 decades now. Nobody do the math. Um, Dale, you can actually go to the next slide. I think I chatted a little bit about this on the slide. I started off in traditional kind of communication, producing stuff for, you can go ahead and click through. Keep, click. Technical difficulties. All right, cool. I started off in producing content in animation, motion graphics. I've also done a lot of reality and scripted television, and everything kind of that goes with that world. So, like live events and, the typical story. So, yeah, that's my backstory. How do I come to XR? So, as a producer, storytelling is kind of at the heart of everything that I do. And the idea behind using story is like the scientists will say, this is how humans make meaning. This is how you shift behavior in people. This is how we make the world a better place through story. This is how we understand ourselves. And I always wanted to be part of that universe, telling stories that move people from point A to point B, that inspire dreaming, that inspire imagination. And TV, growing up in Botswana, was like the promised land of where dreams were made, right? So now, as we grow older, the TV is not what it used to be. Movies are not what they used to be. The next promised land is extended reality, right? So click through. In 2019, I joined an organization called Singularity University. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. So they were really interested, or their kind of promise to the world was to try and solve humanity's grand promises or humanity's problems through technology and exponential thinking, and focusing on the 1%ers in the world and saying, if we can get these people to care about hunger, food security, or water purity, and all of those things, then we have the opportunity to make exponential change. So I was enticed by that, went over there and realized that the tool that they were using to do this was emerging technology. So they would walk into a room with a virtual reality headset and put a 1%er in a 1-minute experience and literally blow their minds. Blow them. And once they've got their minds kind of wide open, they can ask for like all the billions of dollars in the world. And that's really the power of storytelling. And I was like, wow, what new crack is this? I want some more. So you can click through, Dale. So my role, the other direction. The clicker is officially broken. You can stay here for now. I'll ramble on and let you know. Yeah. So yeah, their whole mantra was about like getting leaders to think differently about the world, to be open to new technologies, and to be open to the possibility of this technology to change how humans operate in the world. I was a content producer in that space, so kind of crafting the narrative, which kind of, I guess, falls within the skill set of producer, right? I.e., simplifying a thing. I am by no means a tech person. In film school, I was the person who refused to pick up a camera because I don't want to figure out what those little buttons do. I just want the picture at the end, right? And I was pretty clear about that. So after my time at Singularity, I was bitten by the bug and like continued to look for opportunities to deepen my understanding of this process and kind of see where a storyteller like myself and a producer, i.e. a project manager like myself, can fit in this ecosystem. Because what I did learn at Singularity is it is a very, very technical field. And not only is it a technical field, the tech changes every 30 seconds, guys. Like, so every engagement with the technocrats or with a client is a moment of explanation, right? So how do we bridge the divide and make this a little bit more accessible? Here, enter Habitat XR. You can stay right here. Enter Habitat XR. They are a fantastic company just down the road here in Parkhurst that uses the power of emerging technologies or immersive technologies to kind of hack humans' brains to democratize access to nature, and build empathy for our natural worlds. I felt like that was a really noble thing. So I was like, oh, let me go there. But they were like deep into this XR space and were like, VR is really a powerful way to, in a very short space of time, shift a person's whole perspective. So I was like, okay, cool. Let me go and project manage. They were looking for a client liaison and producer there. And I'm like, I've been doing this. I think at this point, I've probably been doing it for what, 16 years? I can project manage stuff. Cool. I'll take this job. Click through. So this is my foray into producing for XR. Yeah, it literally was uncharted territory in the most biblical way, right? Television, animation, graphic design, and storytelling have existed for years and years and years and years. And every time somebody says they're coming up with a new concept, there's a blueprint through which to usher that concept through, right? We have a playbook of how to animate a thing, right? You start from this point and go to that point. We have a blueprint on how to film a movie or a reality series. And yeah, we shift here and there, but for most part, this is charted territory, right? So I'm bringing this thinking to this space, right? Click through. Not realizing that client liaison in XR space actually means construction worker, import and export officer, soundproofing consultant. These are real things I did, people. And learning as I was teaching and reassuring the client that we got this. We know what's going on. We know what we're doing. And for the most part, I mean, like, I was working with an excellent team that was subject matter experts in this space. But I know, as most of the technocrats will know in the room, that emerging technology is pockets of expertise. So one person will be really, really good at this aspect of the problem. Another person will be really, really good, but nobody has the whole manual to hand to you. So 30% of our time is spent on YouTube tutorials, on message boards, literally learning as we're building, or as I like to say, building the airplane as we're flying it, right? Click through. So I had to kind of go back to my university basics of what it is to produce, right? And producing is fundamentally about being able to synthesize and identify what the problem is, in spite of what the client is saying. They might say, the sky is on fire, I need, right? But actually, they're just hot, right? We just need to move them inside, for example, right? So being able to synthesize and identify what the problem is, from that point, have a good understanding of the process. And a good understanding is kind of having a good enough understanding of the technical aspects of the thing and being able to explain it to a 7-year-old, right? I think one of my old producers said to me, imagine I've had 7 beers. Now, go explain the plan. And if you can do it to somebody who's 7 beers deep, then you're winning. You really do understand what the process required to get this done is. And then finally, the glue that sticks us all together, people, right? Having a good understanding of people and how they deal with uncertainty, people and how they deal with giving other people copious amounts of their money, people and how they respond under pressure. So I use this as my kind of playbook to navigate this. You can click through, that's fine. Navigate this new XR space for me. This was maybe 2021, yeah? And over the years, I realized that I could actually categorize clients or the people into a couple of categories, and that would help me define or navigate a process that could usher them through from idea point to delivery phase. So I'm going to start with, these are my client personas. For anybody interested in interested in producing, I found this invaluable because when I get the brief, I'm like, is this a newbie? So the newbie is somebody who is a specialist in their field. So they're typically somebody who is quite knowledgeable in wherever it is, like it's a doctor or maybe a scientist or So somebody who's used to coming into the room with a lot of surety and a lot of clarity. They're keen to find a way to solve their problems, but they're very limited exposure to XR. They saw on a pod or they heard on a podcast somewhere, or their friends, cousins, sisters, mom told them, hey, this could be a good idea for the thing that you want to do, right? So they're coming in with almost a duality of personalities, knowing absolutely nothing and feeling like they know everything because they fully understand their problem, right? So I'm gonna share one of my favorite newbie stories. Click through. So this, we were working with a fantastic organization up in the north in Rwanda called the Diane Fossey Fund, and they do a lot of work with gorillas in Rwanda. And they really wanted to build empathy for these animals and excite both local and international communities, and encourage them to invest and protect this endangered species. So a little bit of context, in Rwanda, local people typically will go their whole lifetimes without seeing a gorilla in the wild. Or, well, yeah, I guess you don't see any in captivity. So your whole life without seeing this thing that people are flying from all over the world to come and see. It's about $2,000 to go on a gorilla trek, so it's really reserved for the super elite. But when the community members go out into the farms, their stuff or their farms are dug up by the gorillas and the monkeys, so they've got like this conflict relationship with the animals. So how do we resolve that? With something that I don't know, I don't care about, is just causing problems. So that's the opportunity for empathy. It's a bigger backstory, but I'm not going to go into it. But all of this to say that these are the OG scientists, okay? They know about gorillas. They know about how to behave in front of gorillas. They know how to help people connect with them. So they come in with a lot of knowledge, right? But never ever put a headset on, right? So click through. They put a headset on and, sorry, tidbit that I missed. So the Dan Fossey Fund gets a whole wad of money, and they have this opportunity to build this new campus. This is where I became a construction worker, guys. Literally, right? So they have an opportunity to build this campus, and after kind of having experienced being face to face with a gorilla in a headset, one of their funders, Ellen DeGeneres, was like, oh my gosh, we've cracked it. This is how you connect people to these animals that they typically will never get a chance to see, right? But how can we take this thing in the goggles and like make sure that like a group of 50 kids can experience it all at the same time, and it's a vibe, and da 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 da. Enter the challenge of making VR accessible. I'm sure everybody in this room in the VR space has been trying to solve this since day one, right? How do you maintain immersion and then also foster community? So when they build this Ermelin DiCaprio, I think it's a conservation gallery space, in the center of the space, there was a circular room. And my then executive producer was like, you know what? What if we do a 360 theater here? Now we're building a 360-degree theater, 25K potential, resolution potential, all the techie things in the middle of a jungle, guys, right? Do you know, we were shipping nails from South Africa because this is just not the kind of thing that you do out in far-flung parts of the world. So this project was really exciting because the challenge here was, how do we get that sense of immersion? How do we maintain the resolution when typically screens and devices are not built to project at this resolution, et cetera, and make it like an empathy-inducing experience, right? So this was a lot of project managing with the client and kind of taking them from the place of, this is what you felt in the headset. It's really not it's not a group activity, but this is how we get to a good approximation. And the way to get to a good approximation is to unpack what the real want is, right? A child that has never ever seen a gorilla, this is a first step to inspire them to want to take the next step to go and see a gorilla in the wild. It's better than seeing a film. They can do it with their friends. We created a beautiful ambiance. There was a fun film that we put together and stitched custom for the space. And yeah, we ended up with this product here. A lot of hand holding. Then the next kind of client that you get is the enthusiast. So the enthusiast is a typical level of old. So our client here, they are somebody who is a specialist in their field, yes, but has some exposure to XR or multimedia of sorts, and come with a clear understanding of what they want. So they saw it on CSI, and they're like, yep, definitely, we can do that thing. I saw it on the YouTube, but they're not quite clear how to get there. And when I say saw it on CSI, I mean, CSI things are really, it's not that far anymore, right? Anyhow. Enter our Blue Whale project. So we were working with a fantastic crew of filmmakers who used to make documentary films and now made films for IMAX. So they were really comfortable in shifting formats. They're like, okay, cool. I understand the process that if I'm doing a documentary with like a small DSLR, when I do IMAX, I have to shift kind of tech and da 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 da. So they come to the conversation with a little bit more knowledge and give da 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 da. So they wanted us to support. Click through, I think. Yeah, here. So they had filmed a film for IMAX called Blue Whale Encounter, and they wanted an augmented reality app to kind of support that because they're like, again, how do we connect people with the blue whale? It's not the kind of thing that's going to fit in this room. And also, who's jumping in the ocean, guys, to swim with a whale? I mean, not a lot of people. So how do we get kids excited about marine biology and for them to experience in some small way this majestic animal? Augmented reality apparently is something that could help us bridge this divide. So augmented reality only works on a smart device, and they are not-for-profit deploying stuff not just in urban communities, but in peri-urban and rural communities. So they're like, all right, cool. So how do we do this on a mobile device as well as on a desktop? We want it to be a 3D experience, all of these kinds of things. So they came with a lot of really, really fantastic ideas. And as a team, I promise we wanted to be right there with them, right? But like the M1 chips had arrived literally the day before. So processing power was a challenge, you know? The tech didn't quite match the vision. So how do we now kind of start to work with the client to say, the thing that you want us to get to, yes, it is possible, but again, how do we make compromises and concessions to get your desired result, but maybe not necessarily on the path that you had charted for yourself. So a little bit about the project. We ended up doing, you can click through, a desktop model. So this here was, let me take a step back. So because we kind of had a lot of experience in cinematic, or the organization has a lot of experience in cinematic, virtual reality, we were like, how do we take that beautiful photorealism or that feeling like you're there, that telepresence, and bring it into a computer-generated environment? So we really like searched high and low to try and find modelers that were interested in making low poly models that were photorealistic, right? Apparently that's really not a thing. Photorealism is magic, right? Dale, if you could go back one. So this image here, go back one, there. This is actually a CGI. This is a model, not a photograph of a whale. And to get here, we figured out that the secret sauce was in the particles, in adding the God rays, the caustics on the whale, the magic of it all, like the illusion to really sell it. And it really, you can find this on Apple's, what is it, the App Store? And the other one, it's available if you want to check it out in more detail. But yeah, so we created a VR experience in the first section of the app where it feels like you are in a submarine and you go on a deep dive with a blue whale. You can see a diver to get a sense of how big you would be in relation to this animal. And then, yeah, swim with it for a couple of minutes. and observe its behaviors. And the second part of the application was this AR, where you could pop the whale on your desk and click through, peel away the layers, find out a little bit more about its guts and stuff. And it's really a fantastic tool to kind of excite young people about learning about this animal. This can actually be expanded into a life-size whale outside, and the client even had kids like walk along a football field. Whoa, I'm not even to the tail yet, and kind of excite their wonder. So it's not quite CSI, but I think they got what they wanted. And then the final type of client that we encountered are what I call the unicorns. The guys that have been in the game longer than we have, who know what they want, how long it'll take, and understand the challenges of the process, of building a plane as you fly it. So we had an opportunity to build, to create some experiences you can click through for Meta Horizons. And the brief was to build 5 experiences, but as always, nothing is easy. Typically, a VR experience is like about 5, maybe 12 minutes. These were 45-minute experiences in virtual reality. And they didn't want it 360. They wanted it 180 so that you could come and you could sit in an auditorium-style space like this, and you could watch it with a friend and experience it as if you're going to the movies from across the globe with each other. Really, really nice idea. But yeah, no, stitching 45 minutes of content presented a whole new series of problems in our kind of workflow. We needed to rethink storage, exports, all of those kinds of things. But what's amazing about working with unicorns is they understand that, sometimes shit goes wrong. Sometimes stuff crashes. Sometimes we're going to need 4 more days. And then nobody cries because they kind of build in the buffers. So we had these experiences. There was Nature Lapse, which was a series of time lapses shot across the continent, finally. We had a day in the life with mountain gorillas. And then the last one, another one was a day in the life of big cats. Yeah. So what I've learned as a producer in XR is to always stay curious and try and keep it simple. And I think that's the end of my presentation. Any questions? Are there questions?
All right. Anybody who wants to ask a question, you can raise your hand and I'll come to you. Anybody? Okay, cool. Just hang on.
That 45-minute thing that you did, was that like 5 stories all meshed up into 45 minutes? Or was it 45-minute piece?
It was one long 45-minute experience. Well, the concept behind it, I think, was like a meditative state, right? So kind of watching the stars shoot across the sky, the sun rise and set with different soundscapes. We did really interesting things to keep it visually engaging. But it was a 45-minute continuous experience.
Is it available anywhere to watch or experience?
So the way the Horizons platform works is a little bit like a theater. So they schedule stuff. So if you, it's like it'll air next week and it'll be on for 5 days or whatever. So you'd have to check their catalog and see if they're re-airing them anytime soon. But they're not always available on the Horizons platform.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you. No problem.
Hi there. The presentation was awesome. I really like the slides and everything that you presented today. I see the
Thank you.
theme has been about like animal conservation. I don't know if you do anything outside of that, but we have a game called Horny, which is about like a rhino that doesn't have a horn. Excuse
Why
the
do
pun.
guys always come up with these like that's such a boy name? Hey, horny?
Yeah. It's a play on words, but I'm glad that you guys are laughing, so I guess it works. But I wanted to find out, like, as far as what you guys do, like, do you guys have any plans of like gamifying some of these experiences where the kids can interact and maybe there's like rewards in between where these kids can like maybe raise their own rhino and learn about like what the rhinos eat, and maybe like because in our game like the rhino is fighting poachers and it's not just limited to rhinos but like other endangered species. So are there any like future prospects of you going into the gaming space? And yeah.
So I'm not with Habitat XR anymore. I've moved on to. Ha! Wow. Oh my gosh. I've moved on to something really exciting. I will have you know. The shade of it all. The reason I didn't talk about it is the current work that I'm doing doesn't really feed directly into XR as well as these projects did. I'm doing work with like GPT and AI and stuff. But Habitat XR is really passionate about all things that can bring kids, adults, everybody closer to nature. So I would for sure reach out to them. They are a studio that's always growing and expanding, and the bulk of the developers in the organization do have a passion for video games and come from a game development space. So I think there's an opportunity for collaboration there. You should reach out to them.
All right. Thank you for that. One last question from the in-house videographer.
There was another question. Okay, shame.
Well, we can actually just make it two. Where's the next person? Right there. Okay. So I'll just give it to Ray, and often we'll take it to the back.
With storytelling and then having to transition that into XR and virtual reality, what are maybe if you could possibly give us 1 to 3 like pinpoint kind of approaches that you use to make sure that you can still kind of communicate the story from what you're used to, and then obviously how to then get that portrayed well in an XR or virtual reality type of experience.
Okay, so I think my biggest learning in my storytelling transition is don't ever try and take a concept that was built for one platform and just kind of paste it on another. Cinematic VR has its strengths, right? It's fantastic for the thing that it does well. So if you have the kind of story that requires somebody to look up and look back, then lean into cinematic VR because it gives you those tools natively, right? But if you have like a Jason Bourne, you want to be on a motorbike, you're just going to make people throw up because the medium is not built for that, right? So kind of like respect the medium. Augmented reality is meant to be overlaid in a space that exists, right? So don't do something that feels so jarring and so unnatural in the space that you're trying to place it in that your user cannot suspend disbelief, right? So if I could give an example with the blue whale, even though it's a giant whale that I'm putting on my table, we're kind of all familiar with the idea of dissecting an animal for a biology project or whatever. So in our storytelling, we're leaning into that kind of seed of or that context. You know what I mean? Is that helpful? Yeah. Final question.
Hi, thanks for that. That was great. I'm kind of interested in the spin about VR for empathy. Like you said, you started by showing these projects to these 1%ers, right? And it's kind of getting people to care, to give a lot of money. And I mean, the kind of ultimate example of that is maybe Elon Musk saying, let me just solve world hunger, which we haven't solved in billions of years. And now, obviously, we still have hunger. Like, that doesn't really work. So I was interested in this fin in the project in Rwanda where you got the farmers to care a bit more about the gorillas because now, it's a World Heritage thing, but if it's eating up their crops, then obviously they're going to choose their crops over what. So you spoke about this immersive kind of 360 experience and a panoramic video of it. So I was just curious how that all worked. How did you get people to engage? Are there school groups that go? Did you invite farmers in? Did you take the equipment to the farmers? I know this was maybe beyond the scope of where you stopped working on it, but I just think that's an interesting way to get people to make some kind of real difference that's beyond the let's just give $1 billion here, $1 billion there and see where things fall,
100%. You know, I think this is probably like social impact and trying to make the world a better place is probably the only example in the world where it's actually helpful to burn the candle at both ends, right? So, at the end of the day, billionaires are fundamentally people. Some of them are fucked up people, but others are just people trying to get by. And they're people that care whether or not their grandkids are gonna have oxygen, right? They're just too caught up in their own lives to even consider those things, right? So when we built these solutions or when we use VR for impact, it wasn't really to preach or convert people who were very clearly not aligned. It's all like that. Most of us are actually in the middle, right? Elon Musk is not a prototype for, like, if aliens came and met Elon Musk, he would not be the representative for humanity, right? Anyway, so Singularity's model is the CEO of APSA, if he has or she has a huge CSI budget and they're spending it on teaching kids in rural Mpumalanga how to use Excel, that's just because they need somebody to expand their imagination beyond that. They want to help, they just don't know how. And this was an opportunity to do that, right? And he's got the billions or she's got the billions to get that done. That is that approach. And then with regard to Rwanda, so that theater is visited. So Dan Fossey runs a program with local schools, and they bring kids through, and then it is financially accessible. Almost anybody can come through. But because it's so techy and so cool, and Ellen DeGeneres funded it, and Leonardo DiCaprio's name on it, the 1%ers also come through, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, how can I save these Africans too? And then they negotiate, and then it's a fact. And then and then they donate money and they keep the good going. And then the young people, the local kids all go there and they're like, oh my gosh, I could do that. I could be a ranger like Augustine. Oh my gosh, I had no idea that a gorilla was so similar to a human. Oh my God, and then they have their kind of minds blown. The cinema was only one of the tech touch points that we had on the campus. I mean, Dale and I worked on a project there too, where there's an AR experience where the kids get to go on a walk through a garden and follow a silverback. It's a whole bunch of touch points to reinforce that sense of empathy and connection. So yeah, I say let's burn the candle at both ends.
Cool. Another round of applause. And thank you so much, Lebo. Okay. Well, now, from one wonderful talk to another, the next would be Amy, if I presume. Oh. Okay, just hang on here. Okay, cool. So yeah, Lebo, she gave such a wonderful speech and presentation. Now, next on to Amy. Give her a round of applause. And now we've got an augmented reality developer in our midst. Do you need a seat or? I'm not gonna sit. Okay, all right, cool.
I'm too nervous to sit.
Not a problem.
Oh, this is dented. Did you do that? Okay, hi everyone. Sure, there's a lot of people here. We can go to the next slide. My name is Amy. I used AI to make a headshot because I'm too cheap to go and have them done. I go by Amy as awesome on all social platforms. I'm a motion designer turned AR developer. I have over 3.6 billion impressions across my effects. And I've worked with brands like Reebok, Sony Music, and Avon Cosmetics. We can go to the next slide. These are some of my effects that I've created. So the first one there on the left was for the F8 Refresh Hackathon held by Meta. I came, I think, in the top 20th. Then the second one, and I've got to look at my notes for this, which was using a generative adversarial network, or a GAN, to put pucker lips on the user. So it was just something silly. And then the next one was for the Barbie movie launch. And then the final one, if you look at the glow on the outside of my face there, I used a thing called render passes to create that. We can go to the next slide. So, where it all began, a brief history of me and AR, and buckle up because it's a big one. Somewhere in a corporate office in 2019, I made that monstrosity that is on the screen right now. I had this great idea that the makeup company that I was working for could use a lipstick try-on filter. And so I downloaded Meta Spark, which is for Facebook and Instagram effects, and the rest, as they say, is history. I became obsessed. I haven't stopped since. Cool. Here are some stats just so that you know that what I'm talking about is true. Metaspark, which is for Facebook and Instagram, I've been working with since the beta in 2019, and I have 2.6 billion impressions on there. Thanks. We can go to the next slide. Then Lens Studio, which is Snapchat, I've been working in since 2020, and I have 21 million views on there. Not as cool. Next slide, please. And then Effect House, which is TikTok's AR platform, I've been working in since the end of 2021. I was one of the first people in the beta, and I have 660 million views on there, and I am in the top 1% of effect creators on that platform. Thanks. So across my social channels, I have 40,000 followers. We can go to the next slide. And I'm very proud to be an Effect House ambassador, which is why I'm going to indoctrinate you guys all in a few minutes. And we can go to the next slide. And I'm also very proud to be a Snap Lens network developer. And what that basically means is that I get access to betas, new features. Sometimes I get swag, and sometimes I get to do cool things like these talks. So number 2, this is something that I'm going to talk about that's very close to my heart. I need to look at my notes again. Sorry. This is AR and the unemployed young woman. And the reason why I want to talk about it today is because according to a 2020 report by DigiCapital, the percentage of female AR developers has steadily risen over the years, indicating growing interest and an investment of women in the technology sector, which is just so exciting for me. We can go to the next slide. So, AR can provide accessible and interactive training programs for various industry and skills. So we can teach people new languages. We can teach people how to cut people open. Well, only doctors, obviously, but you know what I mean. We can go to the next slide. And why AR is an option? Because AR can enable remote work and telecommuting options. They could participate in virtual meetings, collaborate on projects, and work for companies located far from their physical locations. And AR can assist women in starting and managing small businesses like myself and many, many others. And AR can empower them to make better financial decisions and work towards economic independence, making sure that they are financially independent for the people that they love too. AR can be a platform for creative expression and artistic pursuits. Women with artistic talents can use AR tools to showcase their work, reach a broader audience, and even find potential buyers for their creations. Like myself, that is what I do now. I sell AR. AR-powered social platforms can foster a sense of community among unemployed women, offering support, mentorship, and networking opportunities, which is something else that I'm a part of called augmented equality, which is where we go into disadvantaged areas and teach them about AR. Okay, but it is essential to acknowledge that implementing AR solutions requires accessible technology and internet connectivity, which is why we rely on NPOs, government funds, and that sort of stuff to help us set up these things. However, TikTok's Effect House program is even going so far as to eliminate the need for a laptop, allowing users to create effects directly in the TikTok app. I'm going to put that down now because I haven't looked at them once. So women are playing a transformative role in the extended reality space. Their involvement as innovators, educators, designers, and leaders is diversifying the industry while also empowering more women to participate in this dynamic and growing field. And I hope that by me standing up here today helps somebody else go, hey, I want to make that cool makeup filter. Okay, number 3, this is where I indoctrinate you all into TikTok. So working with TikTok's Effect House. So Effect House is changing the face of AR as we know it. Well, social AR. You can go to the next slide. Effect House is a powerful AR tool that makes it easy to create, publish, and share high-quality augmented effects for TikTok. Yeah. Made with both beginner and advanced designers and developers in mind, Effect House empowers creators to build interactive experience for TikTok users around the world. And this is a very accurate depiction of me trying to figure out some of these programs that I work in. And starting in March, TikTok started showing their appreciation by offering their top performing Effect House designers in South Africa the opportunity to collect cash rewards for the vibrant effects they create for TikTok. That means that you can earn up to 14,000 US dollars for any effect that you create on the platform, and up to 50,000 US dollars a month. And people are doing this. I have friends who are basically just making money off of making silly effects on TikTok. And if you're used to anything like Unity, you'll feel right at home in Effect House, as the visual scripting is very, very similar. Cool. But if you're not, you can join the crash course for visual scripting, which started on the April 15th to the May 6th. And we will have step-by-step video tutorials, live workshops, and a chance to win special prizes. And then these are just some of my TikTok effects that I've made. My BB photo booth is my most viral effect. It went viral in the Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, that whole area. We can go to the next one. This rugby game effect was very lucky enough to come third in the Sub-Saharan Africa Challenge. You had to grab the rugby balls but dodge the fufuzelas. You can see that I was doing my damn best to not catch that fufuzela. And then this effect surprised everyone and actually upset a few people because it came fifth in the Exploding Kittens Challenge that was held last year. And I mean, it took me 10 minutes to make, and people were very angry at me. So that's the end of my presentation. I hope that I've convinced some of you to give TikTok a try, or at least social AR a try. Those are all of my details. And oh, I've got TikTok stickers if anybody wants one. Come and find me afterwards.
Okay. Thank you, Amy.
Oh, sorry, any questions?
Yes, questions.
Oh, no.
Just hang on.
Amy. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you. Question: what do you see yourself doing in 5 years from now?
Exactly this, but with more capabilities, hopefully.
Where do you see it being in 5 years from now?
Well, considering that we just got particles in Effect House, I could see that the technology is going to just expand even more and more. So hopefully, with bigger RAM sizes in the program, we'll be able to add more things so that we can evolve beyond simple things like makeup filters and, putting a 3D object in your space.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I've got a question here at the back.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you get quite close? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to find out, do I have to have 1.2 billion views for me to actually get into that space?
No, not at all.
And I guess the actual question is, how does one actually get into building, the effects that you are doing or getting into that space? Yeah, this looks quite insane for especially kids. I just imagine that kids would actually go insane, just, getting to understand what is happening here and how do I actually get, my nephew, my niece into doing stuff like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have the opinion that you should download the program and just start. There's millions of tutorials on the internet, especially from MetaSpark, which is Facebook and Instagram's program. Effect House is catching up very quickly in terms of tutorials. But if you're anything like me and you've got a curious mind, you can literally just download the program and start playing. And that's how you get stuff done. In terms of getting the followers and getting the views, it's up to you to do that. So, you know, if you make a viral effect and anything can go viral, that's how you get the followers. Yeah.
Okay, a quick one. Thanks for the chat. How do you monetize those impressions?
How do I monetize? So I sell AR creations to brands as a form of my monetization. A lot of my monetization comes from doing challenges on TikTok and doing, they've just launched the monetization for actual effect creator rewards now. So that will be a steady income stream for me as well.
All right. One last question, and then, yeah, we're off.
Hi.
Hello.
So I'm in marketing, right? So I spend a decent amount of time trying to pitch this kind of stuff to brands. And they're usually very excited until you bring up the prices.
Yes.
Because a lot of the time, especially go via third-party service providers like your at Dynamo, whoever it might be, you're looking at upwards of 100K, sometimes 500, and so forth, in terms of what they charge for it.
Okay.
So I want to know, in terms of the whole motivating for AR stickers for brands, what are usually the benefits that help sell that kind of thing to brands to say that it's actually worth the price because you get X amount of impressions or X amount of conversions or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But in your experience, where have you seen it work really well in terms of whatever the KPIs or the objectives might be for that particular brand?
I always say that people who use your effects become brand ambassadors for your brand, and they are essentially selling your brand to their followers, and they become these sort of macro, micro influencers, and it trickles down. So like, you know, I'll see her using a filter from Avon, for instance, and I'll say, that looks cool, I'm going to try it. So I use it, and my 100,000 followers or 10,000 or even 400 followers see it. Somebody uses it, their 400 followers see it. And it's this trickle-on effect where you're creating brand ambassadors without actually having to pay for influencers. So that, for me, is one of the biggest selling points that I would sell to brands.
Okay, so it's more of an awareness push.
Yeah, so it's awareness. You, on Snapchat, you could have a push through to a link that could take you onto a website, but Snapchat is not that used in South Africa. We're more of a Facebook and Instagram and TikTok kind of family here. So yeah, so it's more from an awareness push that I would say.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, a round of applause for Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, but last but not least, it'll be Aluta, right? Whoa. So we've got a game dev here. Aluta, where are you? Okay, another round of applause. Cool. Would you want to chair? Okay. Oh yeah, you can sit on this.
Hi. Illy. Yeah, I'm an ideas guy. I don't speak, so I'm going to be reading a lot of what I say. Also, is there any way that I can control this or no? Okay.
Just give us a sec to see if we'll have a bit of luck here. Okay. Whoa. So you've got control. Yeah, so you can see the arrows. Cool.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I go by Aluta now. A digital artist, but games and XR are my largest focuses. And today I'm going to be expounding a bit on like dead things, which is something that's become like a bit of a philosophy in some of my XR, but it's extended to the rest of my art as well. Where should I point it?
You can point it maybe just that direction, straight, and then just.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I'm going to be referencing things from Cyber Cemetery, which is like a little zine situation that I'm working on. Currently still a whip, but like if someone wants to give me money to finish it, then money is always welcome, just by the way, when it comes to me. So yeah, the gifts aren't gonna play, which is fine, but like there's a lot of like motion stuff in this. But yeah, so I use the term dead things to refer to my work that centers like the longevity of data and technology, but specifically like in the context of XR. It very specifically arose in my AR work. So like obviously like retro Y2K 90s aesthetics, whatever, like that's already like super popular. But for me, I'm specifically like referring to playing with the lifespans of how like relevant these things are. And yeah, I kind of anthropomorphize the technology a lot. I do that a lot just in general as a person and artist. But through this like dead things lens, I'm trying to kind of play with and look at what technology looks like from opposite poles, immortal and extinct. Okay, but me, just to very briefly explain who I am, just that like you get where everything's coming from. Go by Alutanal, as I said, very broadly a digital artist. I studied game design at WITS, and I focused on volumetric filmmaking in my final year. And then in 2021, I created my whole like Alutanal persona. Yeah, and since then I've done like a lot of cool things. And I'm still figuring out the rest. So Run Me My Money was the first thing I made, like right after I graduated. And it's essentially a VR and AR collection of work that like, it's all club culture themed, but it essentially archives conversations, like feminist conversations, but specifically like conversations by Black women demanding money. Fun fact, it got vandalized, which was a very huge honor. A Christian group went to the exhibition location the next day, and the curator phoned me like, yo, I'm so sorry. And I was like, wait, what? That's so hard. Like, my first thing ever got vandalized by a Christian group who found it offensive. Like, that's hard, bro. So yeah, I tend to like create and share a lot of work, not mostly interactive, but a large portion of it is interactive, about politics, perception, and pop culture. Lots of like punk and absurdist elements in a lot of what I do. A lot of people say that I make accessible work. I don't really know what that means, but I think that they mean I take things from one space to a different space in a way that people like aren't intimidated. For example, I've done a bunch of like AR stuff at bars and clubs, kitcheners. So I kind of bring things to people in ways that make sense to them. Born and raised in Joburg, very nice place. I really like Joburg. Being a migrant city makes it obviously a very political space. And I'm a very big capitalism hater. Born on Workers' Day to very political parents. So, like, born on such a political day, born to political parents, like, just in general, a lazy person. Like, obviously, I'm not gonna like capitalism. So, everything is bothering me. Again, if the video is playing, but it's fine. Everything is bothering me was something I made where I don't know. I was just complaining a lot, but this was like one of the first things I made that like had a very old school look to it. And I think from here I started like clinging to that. Which brings me to Phantom, which is where dead things all like comes into play. So Phantom is my solo exhibition, but it's also just like a larger project initially created through Bubblegum Club's Bubblegum Gallery in 2021. Just got back from Amsterdam. It went to IDFA last year. Oh, won a Fakugesi Award. So it's essentially about mental health. Oh, by the big trigger warning, just like for mental health stuff, if you don't want to hear anything deep. Yeah. But it's about mental health disintegration. I kind of liken a lot of the emotions that arise during like battling addiction and like depression and anxiety. I liken a lot of those like haunting feelings to ghosts. And I use AR and VR as a way of communicating that. So what it was, so on like the far right, that was when it was in Amsterdam. And then at the top was when it was at Bubblegum. So you can see like there was a huge, I mean, it was 2 years later. So firstly, taking it internationally, like, but also just like in general, recreating it, they ended up looking quite different. But the bottom version is what the Bubblegum version looked like through the VR headset. So I essentially had two spaces. I had like a physical installation that, when viewed digitally, showed like a completely conceptually like inverse depiction. Yeah, essentially just like speaking about the mask that kind of exists when, you know, mental health things occur. So I, Marshall McLuhan's The Medium is the Message has been like really profound for me. Using AR as a tool for me to like revive these dead things, these broken objects. It kind of felt like very in line with the whole the medium is the message thing. And like discovering the medium as the message really affirmed a lot of like what I was thinking. So this is Happy Food, made on a broken TV with AR. The Happy Food video is really, really dark. Happy Food is essentially a tutorial on how to make happy food. So like black label pills, cereal, like it's quite a cute recipe, but very toxic. And I think it's nice, personally. But yeah, that's Happy Food. And like, yeah. Yeah. So my whole idea of with Dead Things is like about recycling these broken and discarded gadgets. And I think this is like very in line with like my overall desire to elevate the mundane. I'm like a very big introvert, so I feel like I see things that people don't tend to see or like don't really think is cool. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on with this whole like reviving the dead situation. But while I'm here, speaking of like life and death and gadgets, I don't understand why this like is such a weird thing and why people in this industry specifically are not really chatting about Congo. Like, I feel like at the height of the media coverage right now, like it doesn't make sense to me. Eh? Like, why so many people so quiet? Considering how our industry is like powered by such a toxic system, but the Friends of Congo website and then my link tree has a bunch of resources as well. But back to like the art stuff. So I saw this very scary tweet. The reason this tweet scared me so much, because I was like, yo, galleries don't know what to do with digital art. Hey, like that really made me want to cry, especially because I really love the artist so much. So it made me sad seeing his work displayed in like such a cheap, poor way. Like, oh, that tape, like the white tape, that scared me. But it kind of like reminded me of a bigger issue, like the bigger issue that is just digital art now entering more traditional art spaces, right? I've noticed that like, because I work in a space where like I'm with like the XR games people, but then I've also been in like a lot of traditional art spaces. And I've just noticed personally, I tend to prefer like exhibiting with games people because I feel like in our community we already understand that the work is beautiful. It's now just about, okay, cool, how do we show it in a way that shows that? But like in in like traditional art spaces, like we're still trying to fight for legitimacy as like an art form. And then once it's like accepted by some people, they still just don't really know what to do with it. But the reason I'm even mentioning this is because me working with broken TVs and stuff, part of that, I mean, as much as that was what I pitched to Bubblegum, a lot of the other things ended up happening because I was the first digital artist that they had. And I think there were many areas where the budget wasn't suitable, or just like they didn't fully understand things, and I also didn't understand things. So yeah, but I wish you could see the video of them. But when making Phantom, a lot of thought was put into not just the objects, but how people interact with them. So that made me think about the objects a lot. Since I was like recontextualizing this whole room through VR, I realized like I need to pay more attention when like recontextualizing them on the smaller objects when people view them through XR. I mean through AR. I noticed that like it kind of seemed like I was reintroducing the objects to people in a new context where like it was embraced that they were not working, in a context that like accepted them for what they are. And yeah, it sounds deep, but like yeah, I just really liked that I was taking something that was completely just like not wanted by people, but to me it was like the key piece in my exhibition. And what I also liked about it is when you have like a TV or something, and then people are surprised to now see that there's this AR component, it kind of blurs the line between like where the object and story end, because the person doesn't really know. Like, to begin with, the AR part is a surprise, but then from there, I think it adds a lot more curiosity. Also, yeah, that's not playing. But overall, like, Dead Things just like centralizes objects in ways that they're not centralized or like they're not normally seen. We normally like engage very closely with what's happening on the screen, but not necessarily the object that's giving us that info. And us as like the viewers and the creators are kind of just like making a spectacle of the objects in like a really interesting way. So like we're shifting the gaze, which I think is really fun. Just in general, like applying this lens has like diverted my attention backwards to a lot of older things. Yeah, so as I said, I don't only like reference older technology through XR, but I also do it just in general in a lot of my work. I just don't really know why like old gadgets want me to like be as obsessed with them as I am, but I am. Disclaimer: most of the things I make are for myself, like, which is, it's always weird when people like speak to me about things I've made, and I'm like, oh, you saw that? Yeah, I did upload that. Like, it's weird. But I think that's why things like, I really wish the thing was working. But this is Please Stop Watching My Breakdown, which is essentially a TV that's breaking down and like crying and asking you to not watch. And this was like where I really started thinking about the role of the viewer in this whole just like AR dynamic of what was happening. There's a better way for you to see what it would normally look like. Yeah, I don't know. I really started thinking of like the audiences and how like weird of a concept it is to just like have an audience at all. Which is why just like playing with dynamics is very exciting to me. I feel like I'm inserting myself in eras that I either wasn't in or was too young to experience. But yeah, most of the time it's just stuff I wasn't there for. And I feel like I'm, firstly, by like dusting these machines off and like just bringing them into like contemporary space where, again, they are the star. Through that, and also like me just playing with aesthetics of things, I felt like I was playing God in a lot of ways, which was very fun. So a functioning TV is not really appreciated for what it is. It's appreciated for the visuals that it gives. But when we shift this gaze, we're kind of appreciating it in a new context. I went to, well, I attended virtually this talk. If you know weAReVR, you'll like kind of get that the whole chat was about 1990s digital culture and whatnot. And one of the people that was in this conversation brought up this whole idea of aesthetics and devices being obsolete versus obsoleted. And I thought that was really powerful. And there wasn't an answer given, which I don't think an easy answer can be given. But I did think it was really cool to like pause and think a bit more about how active we are in what is rendered useless. Before I go, I'm looking for a Samsung E250 if anyone has one. An operating Samsung E250. I don't want to borrow it. I would like permanent sole possession. Please just let me know. And Nathan Gates is looking for some 3310s. So, yeah. Bye. Thank you. Sister?
Okay. Aluta, before you finish, some people might actually have questions. Just hang on. Start with the lady at the back.
Sorry if I didn't talk properly.
Hi, Aluta.
Hi.
Thank you so much. So I have a question about the black label
Oh, yeah,
pills.
yeah.
I just need to understand that concept just a little bit more because I'm just like, black label pills? How?
Oh, black label pills. So happy food is it's a very toxic concoction. So
Girl.
that whole piece is like about self-harm and substance abuse. And so that's
Oh.
why happy food, it's a lot better for you to watch it. But so like if you check my socials, you will find it easily. But
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm a watch. 'Cause wow.
Yeah, it's very dark. Very dark.
It's very dark. Like the association. Well, thank you so much for the presentation, Aluta. The association me and my team have about Black Label. We even had this phrase once. We said it at our award ceremony. We were like, the only calling we do is Black Label. So when you associate with like a negative, it's like, ish, I'm curious. Like what? Like damn. But my question is about like I think you had on one of your slides you had this quote. I don't know if it's yours or if you got it from somewhere else, but you were like, if, and I'm paraphrasing here, something I do pretty well. But if God is looking up, if God is looking after the living, who's looking after the dead?
Yeah.
And there's this concept, and I feel like it can potentially be explored with. I don't think it can be explored with any other medium besides VR, XR, but like the concept of death. So I wanted to find out from you, like when you explore these themes about death, like, and that's something that we all guarantee, just like how people avoid what's happening in Congo, people avoid dying, but everyone's gonna die here. So like, how do you approach such a heavy theme? You know, like what's your thought process? Do you look at religion? What do you like look at?
I feel like I'm just a very pessimistic person in general. So like when it comes to speaking about death, again, I'm not making this for anyone. I'm making it for myself, right? So I kind of don't really feel I kind of like I just say what I'm thinking, or like I just say something that I think would be interesting. Like, I don't know, I'm just like very honest and very blunt. And sometimes it comes from personal feelings, but also like I blend like a lot of fiction into my stuff. So I don't really think about like the viewer when I make them, which is weird and which is something like games taught me how important it is to actually think about the person who's interacting with what you're making. So that has been tricky because like sometimes it's too dark and I'm just like, oh okay, my bad. But in general, like I'm just like very honest, and I don't really think too much about other people. Yeah.
Yep. One last question. Does anybody else have a question? If not, Aluta, thank you so much for
Thank you.
your talk. And I think a huge welcome to the three ladies. Okay, you're most welcome. Which would be Amy, Aluta, and Lebo. Give them all a wonderful round of applause. All right. So I think right now we've come to the near end of the event. I'm just waiting for, oh yeah. So we'll just wait for Dale to switch over the slides. Okay, so right now we've got what is called the open session. So anybody who's actually developing anything within the XR space, yeah, that's AR, VR. Oh yeah, we've got our first speaker coming coming forward. Give her a round of applause. Yeah, come forward. Okay, so just introduce your name and then talk about what exactly you're doing.
Um, Hi everyone. My name is Tshireletso. And I'm a producer at Electric South. And I'm not going to talk about what I do, but I'm going to be talking about one. I've just come back from South by Southwest, which is one of the biggest festivals, where you're able to show your XR experiences. And it was an amazing opportunity. So we had two projects that were on exhibition there, and it was the first time they actually had African artists produced by African producers there. So that was amazing. We had other projects which were stories around Africa where they had consulted African people, but we were the only ones that actually had and were representing African artists. Another thing that happened at South by Southwest through networking were opportunities around collaboration. I know Aluta mentioned something around getting further funding. And with everyone that's currently working on a project, uh, do reach out. LinkedIn is an amazing place. LinkedIn is fire. LinkedIn is hot. There's so many people who are in the XR industry who are working on projects and are actually willing and available to collaborate. And when I say collaborate, that is co-production. And what co-production means is that you could come on board as the artist with a project and you could find somebody with the funding. So with people that are in the north and in the west, they might have certain access to funding that we might not have. And that could in turn actually allow you to have your projects actually fulfilled. And then you could also then expand it and going to all these different festivals. So please do look out for the different festivals where you could actually be exhibiting or sending or applying to have your projects featured. Um, and last but not least, I'm going to put Afro Geek on the spot, and I have a reason why. So, as part of really growing the ecosystem and really reinvesting in the community, I think it is important for us to really support people that are going out there, to kind of involve and bring up recognition, bring up awareness in terms of the kind of work that we do. And as an XR community, people outside of the community don't actually know that we exist. And that's a problem. And I think it is important for us to really support and for us to really have visibility when and where we can. And with that said, I'm going to bring up Afro Geek only because for the June meetup, we are considering actually, one, going to support the festival, but also secondly, exhibiting our projects. So I'm going to open the floor to you guys to kind of discuss the festival and then in the group. And if you're not part of the group, please find myself, Dalisa or Deek, to get your contact details so that you are part of the weAReVR Jozi group, because there's a wealth of information that goes on there. There's a platform with OGs that have been in this industry for a very long time who can help you out with certain things. Yeah, with that said, I'm going to bring you guys up and then we will discuss how it is that we're going to actually involve ourselves with visibility at the festival.
All right, so it's Sapelo and Neo, right? Awesome. And often you can just reintroduce yourselves and, of course, explain as to Afro Geek. Okay, I'll give you the mic, and often I'll give Neo the other mic.
Okay, hi everyone. Tapelo here from Afro Geek. I'm the co-founder. This is Neo. So Afro Geek, we get this question a lot. What exactly is Afro Geek? And it's kind of tricky to answer because we do a few things. But how we usually summarize it is we are a community. So in that sense, we're kind of very similar to weAReVR. We're basically a community for people within the geek culture space that extending to comics, gaming, esports, everything else in between, animation, so on and so forth. So we are very happy to be included into this group. I think it was Deliso who, introduced us to weAReVR, and we've really enjoyed being a part of this community. And we have an event coming up called the Afro Geek Fest, which is going to be in Orlando, West Soweto. I don't know if anyone here has been to Hector Peterson Memorial. Anyone? of Vilagazi Street. But yes, so it's just around the corner from there. It's a very common tourist area. So if you know those parts, that's basically where we're going to be at. So we booked Uncle Tom's Hall. We're going to have 3 halls at the event. One is for gaming, one is for art, art and everything in between. And another is going to be the press room, which is where we'll be conducting our panel discussions and our interviews and so forth. There's going to be a lot going on. There's going to be everything from cosplay to geek merch to spot prizes and a whole lot of stuff. It's going to be a really interesting festival. But yeah, we were talking to the guys and we're like, it would be really cool to include more of a VR or XR element to the event, which is why we're here. So hopefully we can get some turnout as far as that, just to diversify the experience. Another thing that we really deep into is indie gaming. So we've got a lot of indie gamers who are going to be at the event exhibiting their games and so forth. So in the same vein, we wanted to also include a lot of people who are doing very interesting things in the XR space. So yeah, really looking forward to it and hope you guys come through.
Hello, everyone. I'm obviously not the talker in the AfroGeek, but I just wanted to note that this is basically our first event ever, and the importance of us going to Soweto is just bringing art and the gaming space to the peri-urban and rural people, because a lot of I think our people don't know about the space, they don't know about comic books and all of that. I think with Marvel and the geek space just being in the forefront. I mean, in the last 10 years, we've watched Marvel movies. But I think for us, the most important thing was telling our story in our words, and having AR and VR at AfroGeek would be a great step to showing Africans that there are people who are telling our stories in our way, and we don't have to let the West tell our stories. So yeah, I think that's what was important to me, is that we go to our people and bring this type of event there. I mean, obviously would like to have more events and bigger ones, but yeah, so that's basically why we created this space. Thank you.
Oh, one more thing. Aluta said something about Congo, and there not being a lot of conversation around that. One of the projects we're currently working on, I don't know if you guys know Bill Masugu, is a very amazing Zimbabwean artist, comic book artist. So we are working on a comic book with him that is about the whole stuff that's going on in Congo. So very interested in that. So someone is doing something as far as, just exposing that to the general public. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So I'll probably leave it to one more person, if possible, who wants to share for an open session. Oh, come on. As in Michael, you've also got one. Okay, well, anyway, I suppose it is still the open session. We do have a Vision Pro here. I'm not too sure how many people will get the chance to play around with it, because it does take a bit of time just to get used to it. But yeah, probably my general remarks about it is that it's a wonderful headset, but for the price, I think it probably would be inaccessible for quite a lot of people. So I think as it stands, it's worthwhile. It actually touches onto the future. I think with what we're also just trying to bring into the space is that with Apple, they even allowed you to develop on Xcode. With the last weAReVR, Given was actually here, and he had actually developed a Vision OS application through Xcode, did not even have the headset and the likes. When we got it, then at least we were able to play around with it. Currently, he's also doing a bit of mobile dev. But it's a nifty device, quite heavy on the head, external battery pack, but at least it does give an idea as to what exactly Apple sees in the space. And I think with Meta, it has given them a bit of decent competition. Because for anybody who has been in the space, is that we did have Google. Then, as per Google's usual instructions, it's to shut down things when they just don't work and expect you to actually move on and expect that someone else will fill the void. So funny enough, I know that Amy was actually even mentioning ByteDance, which would obviously be TikTok, of course. And ByteDance owning TikTok, they actually own Pico, which is another VR brand. But slowly but surely, you do see a bit of competition there. But again, it's a wonderful headset. It is very Apple-esque. So you get quite a lot of the interactions going there. No controllers. So I think, again, I'm just playing with the rumor mill. There should be a Meta Quest 3 Lite where it might not require controllers. So again, is that we started off with having a controller to control VR. Then we started having two separate controllers, and now we're getting back to using our hands. So I think, again, it is just wonderful to see more of this innovation just coming into the space. And I think for all of you is that at least even like with the Xcode, it's free to download if you do have a Mac. You can actually develop for it, and there is support for both Unity and Unreal. I've also just been following the updates on X, formerly Twitter. But yeah, I'm not too sure if anybody has any questions, but I think it's worthwhile actually playing around with it to actually get those questions answered. Okay, cool. Okay. So Dale, next slide. All right. Okay. So again, warm thank yous to everybody who actually came through, especially our speakers. So Lebo, Amy, and Aluta. Yeah. Then obviously for the venue, it'll be Lovemore and Anne. And then quite a lot of other people who obviously get everything done in the background and always do such a lovely job every single time. This would actually be our second session for this year. So hopefully you guys can actually join in for the next one. And if you're keen, as it was already alluded, is that there is a WhatsApp group that you guys can actually just join. You just reach out to any of us that you see within the community, and we'll be able to get you there. And we're also both on Facebook as well on X and also Instagram. So if you really want to connect with us, and also YouTube, we've actually just forgotten YouTube as well. So there is actually a live stream. If, for example, you can't actually attend, you can actually see what exactly is happening. But a warm round of applause for everybody who's actually been able to attend for today. Thank you so much. And yeah, we will announce when the next one will be happening. Usually it is the last Thursday, but of course, it happens. But on a closing thoughts, cultures are virtual realities made of language. Okay, awesome guys. Take care.